Hi everyone, my name is Shauna, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. Let me start off this video by saying I am currently having brain fog, okay? So if I stumble over my words and I don't make sense for a second, that's why. I wrote notes. Ooh! I just dropped tons of stuff on my desk pulling my laptop off. But I wrote down notes for what I'm going to be talking about, so hopefully I'll be able to make sense. So I've been really stressed with school this term, and so I haven't really had the time to watch movies. I've been watching like episodes of shows, and I haven't really been able to sit down and watch like a 2-hour movie or whatever. But I have finally got to the hang of school this term. Finally got the hang of it 2 weeks before the term ends. That's really great. But I'll have to start over figuring things out during summer term. But anyways, because of this, I've had 2 weeks in a row where I've had one day each week where I can watch a movie. So I watched 2 more Daniel Radcliffe movies. Today I'm just going to be talking about one of them, but in next week's video I will be talking about another one. This is obviously part of my Daniel Radcliffe series that has been going on my channel for about the past like year-ish, maybe a little over a year, and I'm basically just watching every single thing that Daniel Radcliffe is in that I haven't seen yet and telling you my thoughts on them. So the movie that I'll be talking about today is Escape from Pretoria. This was a 2020 film that Daniel Radcliffe was in. I believe it was filmed in Australia, and it is based on a true story. I can never say this word right, but there's this thing called apartheid. I never know how to say it. I haven't studied this part of history very much in school. I love being in the US education system where all they teach you about is Europe and the US. They don't teach you about much else. Anyways, in South Africa there was this like system in place where there was tons of segregation based on race. So people of color were separated from white people. So Nelson Mandela was leading this movement against apartheid. It takes place in South Africa, and you have to understand the context of this a little bit because it is important for the story. So there is this man named Tim Jenkin. He is a real guy, and he and one of his friends that they have known for a really long time were working for this movement. So they're helping Nelson Mandela and the cause that was going on to try and fix the segregation that was happening in South Africa. So Tim Jenkin and his friend set off these bombs, but they weren't bombs that would hurt people. When I was watching the interviews about this movie, and specifically they were addressing the bombing, these bombs, when it went off in someone's hand, it caused very minimal injuries. So these bombs aren't like blow up houses, they don't want to like hurt people, they are just spreading these sheets of paper when the bombs go off that have powerful messages on there about how this separation is wrong, about how whites aren't like the dominant race, which is very important, and it's a cool way to get the word out there. But unfortunately, Tim Jenkin and his friend got caught and they ended up in Pretoria jail. However, Tim Jenkin and his friend were able to get out of the jail. So Escape from Pretoria is essentially escape from this prison. It is a prison escape film based on a real story. Obviously, there's some stuff that's fictionalized. In particular, there is a character named Leonard, and I believe Leonard is fictional, or at least there's no known like photographs of Leonard if he is a real person, because when it was going through at the end, like Daniel Radcliffe as Tim Jenkin, Danny Weber as Stephen Lee, and they're like showing the actor then the character, they said Mark Leonard Winter as Leonard. I was like, okay, I guess that's either a fictionalized character, or I guess there's no pictures of this person in existence. So overall, I found this to be a very moving and powerful movie. It is about a super important topic, and I love that this movie shined light on Tim Jenkin and what happened and his part in the movement and how he escaped jail, because it was very cleverly done how he escaped jail. So Tim Jenkin is a really brilliant and incredible person. He was still alive as of 2020. I haven't done any checks recently, but like the cast were able to like talk to him and get to find out more about his story so that they can more accurately portray what happened, and so they can get a sense from him about certain things they were a little unclear about what actually happened. I'm not gonna like spoil how they got out of jail because I think that's sort of like fun to watch it and not know much about it. But like it's a very intense jail. Like there's several doors, some with locks just on the outside of the door. There are some gates where there's locks on either side of it, and Tim and Stephen, his friend, managed to escape, and they managed to get out and not get caught. All of the actors did such an incredible job of their characters. In particular, Daniel Radcliffe obviously did fantastic. Daniel Weber did fantastic. I wasn't super familiar with Daniel Weber and other stuff that he's been in. However, the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, he literally looks like that one guy from Thor. Let me look up the character's name from that one guy from Thor. There we go, Fandral. I looked it up. So Daniel Weber really looks like Fandral from Thor, and I was actually in denial that it wasn't the guy who played Fandral because I was like, they look so similar. Ian Hart was also in this film, and Ian Hart is an actor who played Quirrell from the Harry Potter series, so it's like a unexpected Harry Potter and Quirrell reunion. I didn't even realize until like the very end of the film that that was Ian Hart, and I finally made the connection. I'm like, oh, there is another Harry Potter actor in here that I wasn't expecting. This movie is focused so much on just three men, so Tim, Leonard, who joined them like in prison, and then there's Stephen. So like it focuses solely on those three. So there were other great performances that happened that were like side characters, but they didn't have like tons of screen time. I mean, Dennis, who was played by Ian Hart, had a good amount of screen time too, but like a lot of the other characters didn't have that much screen time. But everyone did great. There wasn't anyone that I saw that was like, oh, that's a cheesy performance. I'm like, they all got it down. They were all able to work together really well to create this masterpiece of a film. One thing that really stuck out to me about this film was the camera angles and the shots they got and the cinematography that they used. It was beautiful. There was just some really interesting transitions that they used, some really interesting angles and shots, and I was really admiring that because I thought they did an incredible job with that. And you know, normally I'm not paying attention to like camera angles and different shots and stuff, but I was like, wow, this movie, they put in every ounce of effort to get every single detail right, and it turned out amazing. I do have to say that it was a bit slow at times, so it wasn't really like what I was expecting per se. Based on the trailer, I thought it would be more intense and I thought it would be more fast-paced. However, I mean, it is a prison movie, and with prison movies, they spend a lot of time in prison doing the same thing every day. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that it's a little slow at times, because generally, prison movies, you're gonna have slow times in it, but I did find it a little slow at times. I wasn't bored, I was just like, it's a little bit slow. But you have to keep in mind that the director took this novel that Tim Jenkins wrote about his experience that was like over 300 pages long, and the director had to work on cutting that down, making it faster paced. He made some decisions to make scenes a little different than how they actually went down to quicken the pace and to keep the audience's attention. There is some great interviews if you have the DVD of it. They probably have been uploaded to YouTube by now, but I was watching the interviews after I finished the movie last night. I didn't get to watch through all of the interviews because I watch movies like late at night, so when it hit 3 a.m. I was like, I have to go to bed. I can't keep watching this. However, the interviews were really informative and interesting, and you can really see how much time was put into investing in the story. And the director is such a cool director, and I really want to see more of his movies now because he spent 8 years working on Tim Jenkins' story and working on making it into a film, and I think all of his work paid off and it turned out amazing. And I just love his dedication and passion to this movie and getting it exactly right. There are some really intense scenes in this film, particularly in the like first 5 minutes of the film. There are some very graphic scenes, so like keep that in mind. Like you're gonna see some stuff that makes you really uncomfortable. However, it's important for you to see that stuff to understand what it was like at South Africa in this time, and to understand why Tim and Stephen decided to join this movement and stop the segregation that was going on. And there's some stuff that's gonna make you uncomfortable in here, but it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. You aren't supposed to see acts of segregation or racism and go, oh, that's perfectly fine. Like, you're supposed to feel disgusted. You're supposed to feel moved. You're supposed to feel like you can't let this happen again in the world. And you're supposed to feel inspired to do something about the racism that still exists in the world. So I think the movie did a great job of actually like doing what it should do with the content matter that it had. However, it is intense at times, so like it's okay if you don't feel like you can handle this movie. However, I think that if you can handle it, you'll get a lot from it. I have one thing that's like a little bit of a spoiler, not too big of a spoiler. I mean, it's based on a real life story, so technically you could find this information online or you could find it in the book, and this happened like years and years and years ago. However, the spoilery thing that I need to talk about really quickly is I was really sad that Tim wasn't able to end up back with his girlfriend Daphne. I understand why that happened. Like, it would be really dangerous to go and get her. I mean, she ended up in jail after Tim escaped for like a few days, like I think it was 9 days, so like she ended up in jail just because she was dating him. She didn't necessarily like help him escape per se. I mean, she sort of did, sort of not. She couldn't go visit him because all the jails were segregated, so she couldn't go to a white jail and visit him because she was a black woman. However, I was just sad that like they didn't have like a reunion. I felt so bad for Daphne in particular because I mean I felt bad for Tim too because I'm sure they were both in love with each other, but like I feel so bad for Daphne because she's left with this mystery of not knowing what happened to Tim. But she knows that he escaped, she just doesn't know where he went and what happened to him. I hope if Daphne is still alive today, I hope she is able to reconnect with Tim someday. I only have one more thing to say about this film. This is an observation that I just made of Daniel Radcliffe's movies in general. It's nothing that's like inherently bad, but it is like odd and it's just a coincidence. But anyways, let me just say what I want to say so that I can try and make more sense. So this is the second Daniel Radcliffe film that I've personally seen. I believe it's the second one that he's done so far about racism. Yet it's also the second film about racism that he's done that doesn't include many people of color as main characters. All of the people of color are extremely minor side characters. I know it's just a coincidence, but it is pretty odd. Frankly, I love Daniel Radcliffe. I think you all know that. But some of his films and shows he works on, I'm like, this seems very white to me. And I would love to see him in another film about racism with people of color that are bigger main characters in the film. I mean, the two films about racism that he did were based on true stories, so you can't really like add in diversity to like a real life story that you're portraying in the movie, but like, it's just something that I noticed, okay? I'm not making a point that like this is bad or anything, I'm just making a point that like it's odd, you know? So yeah, overall I would say that I enjoyed this movie. I think it was a really moving story. I think that the director did a great job of adapting Tim Jenkins' story into a movie. I think all of the actors did an incredible job at capturing their characters' personality and capturing the essence of the real people that they were playing. I think if you can handle the themes and content in this movie, you should definitely give it a watch. I definitely will watch it again sometime in the future. And I added Tim Jenkins' book to my want to read shelf on Goodreads so that I can check it out and learn more about this story, because it's a really fascinating story and I'm really interested in learning more about it. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me. If you haven't already, I'll include a playlist down in the description below that has all of my videos about the Daniel Radcliffe movies that I've watched so far. Hopefully you can find some other Daniel Radcliffe movies that you'll find interesting as well in there. I've talked about Imperium, I've talked about Guns Akimbo, David Copperfield, and December Boys. I've talked about tons of his films so far, although I still have some that I need to watch and talk about in the future. I upload videos twice a week, so my next video will be uploaded this Tuesday. I hope all of you stick around to watch that video, and until next time, goodbye!